This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
Ampire.
Hey babies. Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone. Happy Thursday. Look who it is. It's Callow. Callow's back. Callow had his mini bye week because the Caps, like the Commanders, had a bye week in December. What's up, Callow?
What's going on? It's nice to see you. Been zoned out for a little bit over the last couple of days.
You went to South Carolina, so did I. You went to Myrtle Beach, because that's where your parents live. I went to Charleston, which I talked about earlier this week. I haven't talked about much about it because I don't know what there is to say. I did like it there, and I might retire there. So, Ted, if you need like someone to work for the Stingrays, when I'm at an advanced age, I'd be open to it, but we're talking 15, 20 years from now, but I'd be open to it then.
Is that your that's your Woj move? You would go to South Carolina?
It was pretty, very pretty. I mean, it was beautiful. I'd never been to Charleston before. It's beautiful. The weather wasn't that great. It was cold, but it's beautiful. It's like a large Georgetown. Like at the downtown part of it, it's all the old houses, cobblestone streets, beautifully maintained. They take preservation very seriously there. The houses are gorgeous. Some of them are just absolutely enormous. Like you can't believe how big they are. And then the beach is 10 minutes away. And then, I guess if you're a golfer, it's a golfing paradise down there. Like it's really great. It's beautiful. But the one eerie thing is why the money was there, because it's the slave trade. And so there's that part of it that's like, every time you walk by these houses, you're like, I know why this is here. And why there was so much wealth there. That said, it's beautiful. And the preservation basically of the city, it's gorgeous. So we had a great time. Food was great too. So really nice.
Nice. It can't go wrong there. It's a place that looks nice and some good food.
Correct. Yeah. Beautiful. Anyway. All right, let's get into what's going on here, because you've missed everything. So, the Wizards are 2-19. If you missed that,
they haven't won since I came back.
3. My bad. 3-19. My bad.
Yes. That 3 though on Saturday night was pretty ridiculous. They were missing everybody. Jokic scored 50. It was a little ridiculous, but they had to win at some point.
They had to win at some point. I mean, that's all it is now. Here's the bigger question with them. Will they get to 10 wins? 10. Will they? Because I assume they're going to start trading off a couple of their better players sooner rather than later. I would assume Kuzma's lost his mind and needs to get out of here. And I guys, I get the whole tank thing, but this ain't it. This is pathetic. So, and I can't even you mentioned the Denver game. I'm aware it happened, but I was not interested nor cared to turn it on, because when you guys decide you're going to try again, let me know, because I'm kind of out. I can't follow a team that's this god awful purposefully. I can't do it.
I mean, I don't disagree with the following part, but I will eat my words here. I have said for how many years since I've known you, the worst part about the Wizards was their middling. They're not middling anymore.
No.
They definitively suck.
This is worse.
They suck, though, in a year where they could get this flag guy and could turn things around. I have to just turn my head away from the disaster. Because
underline could get this guy.
Okay.
There's no guarantee they get this guy, right? And I'm looking at the number 2 overall pick they got, and it's screaming Sixers. Most of those guys outside of Embiid didn't work out, actually. So I'm if they don't get the guy, then guess what? This will all be for nothing, really. Because is Koulibaly going to be great? Keep telling me that. Is Sarr going to be great? Maybe. I don't think so. Stop selling me on the 18-year-old point guard we have. None of these, this is this is a little bit of the all they have to do is hit on one of them, but it's a little bit of the Nationals thing where they're like, we're getting better, you'll see. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, your team's not very good. Like, what are you talking about? Like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And guys, this SAR guy is supposed to be one of the answers down the road. Is he? Is he, guys? Is he? Because if he isn't, you better pray you land on whatever unicorn is coming out of this draft, because if you don't, you guys are going to stink in perpetuity, really, honestly.
You could make the argument that they got the number 2 overall pick last year, though, when they weren't really trying for it. Like, they were still kind of wheeling out the old monumental, this is the crew that we're rolling with. Whereas this is the first year where they literally said out loud, guys, it's going to be a little worse than we even think this time. And so they did, like, once again, I go by the, if you're telling me what I need to hear versus what is actually happening, I'm going to criticize you. They told us day one of training camp, hey, hold on to those good memories this year because you're going to appreciate them later. And I remember going, oh, God, if they're saying that, they're going to be even worse than we think. And here we are. Like, I cannot be mad at that for now. I get it.
I'm not mad at honesty. I agree with you. There's no reason to be mad at honesty. And they're being honest about it. And we've asked them to kind of do this for a while.
Yes. But
it's even worse than I thought. So much so that me can't look away from sports, cannot watch this. Like, I'm like, guys, call me up when you grow up. It's like, it's the AAU team playing the Lakers. Like, I can't watch this because night by night, they're going to lose by 30, and every once, like, I can't hang on to the every once in a while. Like, let me see what's going on with the Celtics, guys. Because I can't, if I'm going to get into the NBA right now, it cannot be through you. Like, sorry. No,
I mean, I 100% agree, but it's also, they are wheeling out 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. And you and I know how that's just going to work in today's NBA. So I'm just saying, it's not, I don't like watching it, but I also am like, okay, you told me this is how it was going to be. And in fact, remember we killed them 2 years ago where we were like, why didn't you suck when Wembanyama was coming out?
Correct.
Now there's this guy. And once again, I can't get all worked up about it. I can acknowledge that they suck, but I can't get as worked up as I did a couple years ago.
If they end up in the lottery getting the 3rd overall pick, it's just going to be like, oh my God.
So Wizards. It'd be so Wizards.
All that for nothing. All right. Here's what else is going on. So it's all ramped up for the RFK Stadium site. I will reiterate what I've said for months and years about this. The red tape on top of the red tape and what you have to do for everybody else to push this thing along step by step is the reason why I never believed it was going to happen at all. But I was turned on once we got the new ownership, then there was at least a chance. Once Roger Goodell got personally involved, so it became very clear that he and the league want this to happen. That's different because now you're lobbying with the power of the most culturally relevant and most enriched league in the country on your behalf. So this isn't a typical stadium deal. Roger Goodell doesn't go to the governor of New York and say, we have to have this Bills thing at this spot. They let that happen. They're going to let the Cleveland thing happen. They let the Tennessee thing happen. Not this one. They're personally involved. So once they got personally involved, I went, okay, I'm now actually going to give this a 50-50 shot of happening. But here we are on December 12th, 8 days away from them going into a recess. And currently we've got mad scrambling by a wild number of senators, ones at least locally now that I at least understand their position that they want things, but the things they want are somewhat ridiculous to make this happen, just to get it into a bill that then has to be passed and then has to be signed by the White House. And the last time I checked, the president is either pardoning people or napping. So I'm not sure whether this is going to really, really happen. And the Post had a piece today that basically said Muriel Bowser described it as we're being held hostage by Maryland senators. I knew this would. I didn't know if the Virginia people would get involved. Who knows? The Louises of the Senate, they're going to show up and get in the way of this. Maryland, on one side, I understand one of the things they want. They want to know what's going to happen to Northwest Stadium. It's not going to become an eyesore and just sit there. that doesn't make any sense. It's prime real estate. And the reason why RFK looks the way it does is because the federal government has dragged its feet on what can be done with that land. And we've had our hands tied behind our back with doing something with it. The Harris Group, the Maryland government, PG County, whatever, this is privately owned. So they're not going to leave it there to rot. They're going to do something with it. But I do understand that they want to know what that's going to be. And they do. And so I get like that, I think is a fair, what do you plan to do with this if you walk out of here? I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, when I landed on this last week, I essentially said the same thing. There's nothing wrong with them asking that question and getting some kind of outline of what's ready to go, because you also don't want them to just say, we're going to give this to the highest bidder. And then whatever developer comes in and just puts, apartments, luxury apartments, or, something that's just not going to benefit the county. And I totally understand that one. And I fell into the mindset of, if you're Maryland, the one thing I understand is, okay, if we can concede that they're leaving for DC, it's the old Denzel Washington line. I'm leaving here with something. Like, tell me what I can get out of this if they're still leaving, which I'm sure you're about to get into, but leads me to the whole, we want a squadron of fighter jets now.
Yeah.
Which I also dangerously said, okay, if this is what you want, is this going to be it? And then clearly after this morning, no, it is not all they want. And that's where I thought this whole thing was going to get weird, was how much more do you want out of this thing? But
even then, okay, them going to the ownership and the league and saying, we want to know what you're doing with this land, because that's a fair question. Like, that's a totally fair question.
Yes.
Give us your National Guard fighter jets. Like, I could see, like, what expression do you make when they actually say that to you? Because Josh Harris and Mitchell Rales are sitting there going, we don't have control of the National Guard. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and then Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's like, I don't even have a vote, pal. Like, you think I can go tell the National Guard where to put the planes? And then secondarily, it's like, what would one have to do with the other whatsoever? So you're like, I could just say crazy stuff too. You're like, well, fine. I would like to own the Chesapeake Bay now. Like it's just like, it's ridiculous. Like so this is why I never thought this would happen. It's these ridiculous things. These are hurdles you can't even jump over. But how in the world could the NFL or anybody promise that you'll get National Guard jets from Washington, D.C.? It's an utterly ridiculous thing to ask for. Like, when the Montana senator is standing in the way of moving this forward, at least it's about IP that's owned by the team and they can do something about it. As ridiculous as I thought that's what he was grandstanding about, but like, at least it's something that's in their control. This is why I never think this is going to happen, because suddenly someone puts their hand up and goes, yeah, I'll vote for it if I get the rights to protect all platypuses around the earth. And it's like, what in the world? Like, can we just talk about the use of this land? And apparently, welcome to Washington, you can't.
On that front too, I researched a little bit last week while you were on vacation. The planes are actually already stationed in Maryland. So the move actually isn't like this crazy, oh my God, transfer of whatever. And
yes, but one doesn't have anything to do with the other. It's
no. I get it. But also, like, let's just unpack it for like 2 seconds with that. And then you know how it works in this area. When they deploy the National Guard, a lot of the times it's from all three jurisdictions to wherever it needs to go. So like, for me, I was like, okay, what are we really transferring here? Because if DC calls Maryland and says, we need your help with something, I think they're going to oblige, Yeah,
like, but I'm just saying, like, now we got to make a phone call to some general somewhere and explain to him that we need you to okay this to put a football stadium somewhere. Like, that's a serious person who's going, I'm taking this phone call. And why am I taking this phone call?
No, I agree. It's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, it's just like labels to me. That's all it is.
I understand. It's ridiculous. I get why Maryland's standing in the way. They're trying to keep the team. Like, I get why they're doing it. And this is why I never thought it would happen, because these are the things that pop up, especially at the last minute. Muriel Bowser's been doing interviews. She did one with Keim last week. So I think she thinks that this is going to happen. And then I think she thinks that we forgot the other part. Even if they do pass this, which is a week away from being very much up in the air in perpetuity again, even if they do it, like they still got to get the city council to do it, which I think would happen, but I don't really actually know. And then I assume they appeased Ted enough that he can't get in the way of whatever would actually happen if we get through steps 1, 2, and 3. But steps 1, 2, and 3 are, I mean, it's like the impossible dream. Like you can't, every time you think you're like inching closer to it, someone puts up a roadblock that makes no sense. So it's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Every time you turn a corner, there's a giant ball rolling at you.
Spikes.
Or maybe, right, some guy's going to grab your heart and show it to you. Like, it's just, there's no answer. It's just a maze. You're going around it. It's the Hall of Mirrors. And every time you look in there, you think you found the answer, that someone asks for something preposterous that isn't going to happen, especially in a day. So, like, I know how the wheels of legislation move, having lived here my whole life. They don't move like this. You need to actually have a committee meeting with the National Guard about where planes are going to be stationed and who's in control of them to get a football stadium. And, oh, by the way, you have to do it by Friday? Give me a break. Like, so I don't know. I guess 50-50 is the way I'll put it now. And Ken Goodell push and lobby some of these senators and go, the question is, what does he give Maryland? That's really the question here. What can the NFL do for Maryland to allow this to happen?
So I actually thought about this too. You know, we had all the talk here about, oh, well, if they build a new stadium and they need to make nice with DC, what did we say? The draft, right? So does he need to go to Westmore and say, does Baltimore want to have the draft at the Inner Harbor? Like, is that something that interests you, or do we need to make sure we put you on the opening night again or something in Baltimore? Like, it's the only thing. You can't
do a Super Bowl because it's open air stadium, but
no chance. Yeah,
but you could do the draft.
You could do the draft. You could, like I said, make some kind of loose promise of opening night or whatever, or like opening weekend, make them prominently known. Like, I don't know what you can guarantee them because you honestly can't. You could also, you know, do something where the team is still in Landover and it benefits them somehow before they move to DC. I don't know what that looks like. I'm just throwing out there what he can do, but I don't know. His hands are a little tied here too. There's only so much he can do to kind of smooth things over. So I don't know what Westmore wants here either. And all I'm saying is, for you to say, we want a squadron of fighter jets that are already stationed in Maryland to, we want the federal government to pay $1.9 billion for that bridge. Where do you get that jump from? That's where I'm kind of like, whoa, like, what are we doing here with the demands here? You did not inch up to that one. You just kind of plopped that one on the table.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. We'll see over the next week. Because if it doesn't happen in the next week, it is not going to happen again for who knows when, because they're going to leave. And when they come back, it's going to be a whole new administration. And who knows if it'll even come up again. So we'll just have to see. All right. The other thing that's going on, obviously, is the Noah Brown injury. This is bad. I was doing the numbers like last night, just looking at all the other receivers, and all of them combined have like 60 catches in 13 games, like combined. So someone, I don't know who it's going to be, but someone's going to step up. I don't think it will be KJ Osborne overnight. I know they signed him, and I think that was the right move because they need another, veteran receiver with this group. But you don't plug in someone like that and expect him to be like a number 2 target. So it's either Zaccheaus or McCaffrey, in my opinion. We'll see if Crowder even plays. This is a big deal. Like, they do not, and this is something that's going to have to be, I'm not surprised by this, but they're going to have to do something about this in the offseason, which is address the explosiveness of their offense. Terry McLaurin down the field really symbolizes the only explosive player that they have on offense. And then when B-Rob goes out and the run game isn't as effective, you see how teams react to that. This is going to be interesting this week. Like, who actually steps up and becomes the secondary target that is someone that a defense fears at all? Because Brown, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he's Brandon Ayuk or something, but he was feared enough by the defenses because he could go downfield. He drew a lot of penalties. He was a true secondary target for them. Without him, this is going to be a work in progress for the rest of the season. So this is really, for this team, this is a very tough injury.
I think you have to look to Diami Brown too. I mean,
Yes.
he's a guy that's flashed over the years, not just this year, but he's flashed over the years with some of these roles where he's stepped up and, caught some deep balls or whatever and had his moments there. I will add his name into the list here. But yeah, when I saw that was kind of your, we don't really call them this anymore, but Noah Brown was your definition possession receiver, right? Like he was good to go for those third and longs and just get 10 yards and go down, right? So I'm with you. He's actually been pretty important here. And I always, kind of complained when they didn't get him going until the second half a lot of games, because I thought you got to get him a couple targets to get him going. And yeah, I don't like this one at all because their receiving core is so thin and it's been by committee. He's been the biggest part of that committee.
No doubt. Real quick, I'll probably mention more of this tomorrow, but hey, Chase Young, I see you. Chase Young, he only has like a 3.5 sacks, something like that, but he's top 5 in quarterback pressures down there. And, obviously this week I started watching, I haven't watched a lot of them this year, but I started watching them this week to get ready for the game. And it was nice to see. He actually looks closer to the guy his rookie season than he ever did the last couple of years with Washington. A lot of that was based on knee stuff. And I know like everybody's got mixed feelings about him or whatever. I didn't dislike the guy. Like I know why he's not here. It was all injuries. And I wasn't sure the dude was ever going to play again after what I had learned about his neck injury. And it was actually, I hope he doesn't take advantage of us, but I was pleasantly surprised to see how effective he was. So I see you, Chase Young, and I'm glad things are working out for you down there.
No, he looks I've seen him a few times this year. He looks much more decisive this time around. Like we saw this actually in that first game back from him against the 49ers a couple years back, where he looked okay. It looked like his decision-making was fine. And then it's the indecisiveness that kind of got him in the end. He's actually seems to be pretty comfortable there in New Orleans. So I'm with you. And you and I talked about this when he got traded. If he ends up turning into the Jadeveon Clowney that signs a 1-year deal for a bunch of years after this, that's still a very good way to live your life if you can go ahead and do that. So I'm with you. I'm glad he's settling in is what I'm getting at.
All right. Be right back. Bram Buster Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.
Craven, the hunter, who uses all the methods of the animals.
Now, witness the making of a new Marvel villain.
Once you're on his list, there's only one way off.
Aaron Taylor Johnson is Craven the Hunter. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Hey, it's Austin James. Yes, I'm living with diabetes, but it doesn't have to define me. Thanks to the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor, I get real-time glucose readings throughout the day. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor is small and easy to wear, giving me the freedom to focus on my life as a parent and a musician. Now this is progress. You can get a free sensor at freestylelibre.us.
Offer available for people who qualify. Visit myfreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Certain exclusions apply. Data on file. Abbott Diabetes Care. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
When you're on the go and it's time to refresh your energy, grab an ice-cold Celsius, where 0 sugar, 7 essential vitamins, and proven ingredients meet pure refreshment. Unlike traditional energy drinks, each sip of Celsius is a perfect balance of flavor and function. So whether you're hitting the gym, the office, or your next adventure, grab a Celsius at your local retailer or visit Celsius.com to learn more.
All right, time for our weekly visit with John Keim of ESPN, John Keim Report. We're taping on Wednesday, and we both got news. I don't think either one of us anticipated Noah Brown being out likely for the season. We were doing the live stream Tuesday night, and I think I said to you, I go, what we don't know is about Noah Brown. We hadn't heard anything. It was very under the radar that he got hurt. And the way Dan Quinn spoke about it sounded like it was very serious.
Very serious. And they have not put him on IR yet, but that's the likely move. And he said he termed it as a significant internal injury. Now he had busted some ribs, and he credited the medical staff for how they handled it after the game. But I guess there was some initial X-rays didn't show something, or the initial test didn't show anything as serious, and then more X-rays did. And so it was, to be honest, Bram, it's a failure on our end to even ask about it in the two previous, or actually, really, it would have been the one previous that we have with Dan Quinn on Monday, because I don't think the day after the game that they knew how serious it was. I think it was further tests. But it's significant because he's been a very good receiver. He gives you some size. has the ability to make contested catches, very good blocker, can run routes from different spots. So it's a pretty big loss for them in the passing game.
Yeah, I think so. I don't want to be callous about it, but it's a big deal. Like for them moving forward, hopefully he's fine. Hopefully he'll be okay and he can play next season, because it sounds like he's done. For this year, we don't know what the injury is, but, callously, he was their number 2 receiver. Yeah. He was their number 2 target. With Austin Eckler not playing, we're starting to see the thinness of that core. So I'm curious how you just think about this who's getting the ball outside of Terry McLaurin?
Well, I think I'm going to go back to something else that's not the pass game, which is Brian Robinson, and being able to lean on that aspect in the last 4 games. I think that's going to be key. But as far as the number 2 thing, Bram, I think we're back to what we heard a lot in August, which is the number 2 spot will be a by committee situation, and depending on situation in game. So it's Noah Brown, it's Zacchaeus, it's possibly Luke McCaffrey. It's, does Jamison Crowder come back and give you anything now? He doesn't play the same role as Noah Brown, but does he give you something else that you can tap into if he's in the game? So
Brown has also been a downfield threat. Maybe De'Ami Brown is a downfield threat.
Well, I think it's De'Ami Brown. Then here's the other thing that De'Ami does that he does, which is block well. And so in the last game, one of the things I liked in the run game, they had a couple different plays where Noah Brown was a pulling blocker through the hole, but De'Ami Brown did it too. So Brown gives you some of that for sure. I just think that with the combo, I think Noah Brown was very good for them. And so, but I do think we're back into the number 2 receiver by committee situation where I think De'Ami Brown certainly warrants a strong look, because I think he gives you more of the size, the blocking, and the downfield stuff that he did.
It was interesting. Like, I couldn't figure out when we had the whole, when are they going to unlock Terry conversation for a couple of weeks, and then they did, later. I felt it kind of went back to the secondary targets, that some of them had been lost. And maybe this was the offensive line was beat up, so there was just more pressure. Teams were bringing a lot of pressure packages. Jaden was beat up. I think that's pretty apparent now that for a few weeks there he was beat up. But I also felt like that this was a little on Cliff, that they had lost people like Zacchaeus. McCaffrey's getting 1 target in 3 weeks, that some of these secondary targets are just not a part of the there now without Brown. I mean, I think you're throwing a lot on Cliff's plate. Like, you could figure out, how do you get the ball down the field?
I think, I think there was one game I thought was a big clunker, and that was as much Dallas, right? So I don't know that there was but with just going back to what you're asking too with the number 2 stuff, yeah, it's how do you figure out how to get guys the ball? They did not have a problem with that early in the year. So I'll be curious to see what they do to adjust. And I think some of that goes back to Terry McLaurin. And, because it's not just Sunday, you got the rematch with the Eagles coming up. Like, what do you do there? Because now you've lost a guy that's a good option for you. And I think I've told you this too. Like, I was talking to another defensive coach who was like, going into the game, like, they were as worried about Noah Brown as they were about McLaurin, because he could do a lot. And I don't think you have that other option for you now consistently. So, but Luke McCaffrey, we've seen him get open. He only has, I think, 17 catches. Will he become a bigger part of this offense? And I think where he can become a bigger part, even Sunday, Bram, is the Saints allow quarterbacks to get outside the pocket a lot. So if you get Daniels out there, so some improvisational plays on the move, that's where I think that McCaffrey has been open at times where he hasn't been hit. Do you see him this weekend? So things like that. But you're right. Like, you're going to have to find ways to get guys the ball in different ways, for sure.
Back in the summer, when I was watching De'Ami Brown, I'm like, this might be a good offense for him. Like, they have a coordinator who wants to throw a ball down the field, will play with tempo. He fits the profile of what Quinn wants. He's a very physical player. He'll block for you. And he does have downfield capabilities, and on occasion through the first few years of his career, he's made some big plays down the field. Here's a shot. This is a real shot for him to prove his worth beyond this season if they find the right role for him, and they may need to lean on him a little bit here.
For sure, and it's a great opportunity for him. And I think he's been good in this offense. Where he's really excelled too is on some of those tough runs after screens. Like, he does not play timid when he does that. And so he does offer you something for sure. And he has the downfield speed. I just think that what separated Brown was the ability to make the contested catches. And I don't know that we've seen that from De'Ami quite as much, but he does have the ability to get down the field. And so you can listen, he can definitely help them. And I think that, but it goes back to, like, do you have other guys in addition to that? Can you lean on Zach Ertz a little bit more? Well, he hasn't shown that he can be anything more than that 9-10 yard catch guy, which is fine, but they don't have any explosiveness at tight end. Can you incorporate Zacchaeus a little bit more? Can you get McCaffrey the ball a little bit more? Because again, you go back to what you said about Eckler, like that now becomes a loss, because as good as like Robinson runs really well and Rodriguez has run well, McNichols has run well, but they're not Eckler in the pass game. So I think not at all. So like that's where you're right. Like that's where it's going to hurt, is that, okay, it's one thing for Noah Brown to be out, but you also have this guy out too. And so it takes another piece away from that pass game.
Other side of the ball, boy, this is the all-time sign that things are different around here. I haven't heard the name Chase Young come up very much. It's funny that it hasn't come up very much, because he's not having a bad season down there. In fact, he's top 5 quarterback pressures. He doesn't have a lot of sacks, but he is top 5 quarterback pressures. He is on a team that's got a bad record, and he doesn't have a ton of sacks, so it's not like anyone's talking about him like for the Pro Bowl or anything like that. But boy, we've really turned the page, because in the past, any prominent player that was not here under previous ownership was the story of how did that one get away or what happened here.
Right.
And we're not talking a lot about him.
No, and it's funny. I was thinking about this too. It's not just him, but Montez Sweat as well. Like Montez got that huge deal from Chicago. He and Chase have about the same number of sacks this year. Dante Fowler has more than both of them combined, I believe. So like it's really a turn the page scenario in both cases, to be honest. Like what you gave up, what the Bears paid Montez Sweat, these guys probably got about 5 or 6 players who contribute to this team in a very big way. So it's not just him, it's also Montez. But yes, in Chase's case, because he was the number 2 pick, it's funny, Bram, because before he got traded to the Niners, I felt like he was doing a good job applying pressures here. I did not feel like he did that in San Francisco when I'd watch him. Like, it wasn't just that he wasn't getting sacks, he wasn't putting the pressure on. And when I've watched him this year, he is putting more pressure on. But yeah, I mean, he's not. The other thing is you still see him sometimes getting up the field too much and leaving a gap and maybe not setting the edge the best way. And so you still see those holes in the game. But yeah, you're right. Like, they've been able to move on, and it's not a story.
There's a consistency about him with a motor,
right,
like what they call the motor. Like you don't see it on every play, but there are the moments where he stands up because he's an elite athlete, and his situation is different than Montez's. I don't want to go through the whole thing, but there's a health aspect to his with his knee and his neck that is the reasons why he's really not here. Anyway, the other news is Marshawn Lattimore is a full participant in practice, finally. So I'm assuming he's playing this weekend. I guess we'll know more by the end of the week, but I'm assuming he's playing this weekend. So I think we can start talking about this. His impact to you will be what?
I think significant. But the question though, Bram, is when, and it's hard to really say. Like, it put on paper, it can be significant because you have a guy who's capable of taking a number 1 receiver. Now, he's not infallible. He wasn't the world's best corner when they acquired him, but he's a very good corner. And so and he becomes their best corner, period. So now you have a guy who can match up against whomever they need to try and shut down. And it allows you to do different coverages, different pressure packages, knowing that this guy can hold up against this receiver if you need to get an extra second with the jam at the line because it's man coverage. Allows you to do some different things with your blitz packages. So I think it could be significant, but we don't know. Like, he hasn't played since mid-October?
Yep.
So that's hard to come out and say. Now, I will say it's good that they're playing the Saints because you don't have a prolific pass game, assuming Derek Carr doesn't play.
There's no way he's playing.
I don't see it, but they haven't ruled him out yet. So we'll give them the 1% optimism. But yes, but it's not a prolific pass game. So their whole thing there is, can you stop Alvin Kamara? But then you get to Philly. And that's where I think you start to see the matchups help. You can cover A.J. Brown. Can you get more in the box to help defend the run? It does not guarantee that you're going to be better against the run because teams can do things to scheme you out of that. But it does help. I think it gives them more options for sure. And it should make them much better. But the question is when? Because when do we see the Marshawn Lattimore that he's been in the past.
Yeah, and no, we don't think Chris Olave is going to play this week. He could come off of IR, but they'd have to open a practice window. He had a very serious concussion, so they're being very careful with him. So he's not available. Taysom Hill's not available. It's a very different team. We don't know which quarterback's going to play, but it's going to be a very inexperienced one no matter what this weekend. So I'm not sure this is the test. I agree, Philadelphia, A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith or how they use him is going to be the test. But the real one, too, is the Atlanta game is a de facto playoff game if things all go as we think they're going to go. Atlanta's playing the Raiders and the Giants, so they could very easily win their next two games. Washington's got this one. Hopefully they win either way with Philadelphia. It's going to become kind of a de facto playoff game between the two of them. And guess what team he knows really well? Atlanta. Like if there was ever a wild card in that, we just got the guy who's played against them for the last 6 years.
And they have a big receiver in Drake London that he can now match up. Not that because he's only 6 foot, but he plays bigger because he's physical and he can do that. And so I think it gives you more ability to match up against certain receivers. And then, I mean, my goodness, they had.
I don't think we've had a physical corner like this in a while, a very handsy physical corner like this.
Correct. Yeah. It's been a long time. And so, but even against like the Eagles the first time, you had Mike Sammer still having to cover A.J. Brown at times. And he did a nice job, but there's a size disadvantage there that you limit with Lattimore. And as they said, he's got that dog in him, and that's something that they felt like they needed in that room. I think Sammer still's a terrific leader, but there's a difference with who Lattimore is as a player in terms of what he brings. So yeah, it's you're right. Like that game is the one because you know that they're probably going to try and throw the ball, whereas the Eagles, you're going to try and run the ball. But can you devote more to stopping Saquon Barkley, which then gives you which is where he can help you, right? It allows you to do that and put the game in Jalen Hurts' hands. But yeah,
listen, the next 3 games are the Saints where they're going to have to lean on Kamara. He's an outstanding running game. He can catch the ball too. Saquon Barkley, who might be the MVP or Offensive Player of the Year, and the Eagles are a dominant run offense. And then Atlanta with Bijan Robinson. I mean, this is the real answer here is not are they going to lock down receivers? It's are they going to stop a run game? Correct. Which every question I get about him is how does he help them in the run defense? And we think this allows them to allocate other people in the box. We think.
Well, we think, and it should. But here's the problem. Dallas last year had the most snaps with a single high safety. So if you have Lattimore out there and you play him a man or cover 3 or whatever, but you can get that extra defender in the box. Now we say 8, but it's rarely 8. It's usually like 7 now. But Dallas had a bad run defense last year despite playing that many single high reps, right? So it's not a guarantee that you become a better run defense, but it does give you a better chance.
I will say this for Dallas, though. I think a weakness for them was their linebackers. I don't think that this team in fact, the strength of this team is their linebackers.
And I think you're right, but I'm just saying, it doesn't guarantee it, but it certainly gives you a better chance, for sure. And so I think it just, like I said, it gives them more options as to what to do defensively. And there are a couple plays where you look back and say, oh, if they had Lattimore for this play, you like the Mike Williams touchdown against Pittsburgh. Now, it's not a guarantee he stops that, but you have a better matchup with him against Mike Williams that St. Juice gives up. And, there have been a few plays like that where you can say that. But, yeah, the run is where I'm also curious, Bram. I'm not discounting it by any means because I'm curious as well. I just don't think it guarantees anything, but it gives you a better shot.
All right, we got 4 games to go. Dan Quinn doesn't want to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. They can make the playoffs. In fact, they have very formidable tiebreakers with the Rams or Green Bay, honestly, because it will come down because they won't have played either one of those teams. It will come down to conference record. Currently, they have a better conference record. So if they win at least 2 more, and if they win 3, they're almost certainly going to make the playoffs, even if they end up tied with any of these teams. So what's the word for it? Do you believe they're going to do it?
Yeah, I do, because the schedule sets up for them. And listen, I'll say this, if they don't make it with the schedule they have, because you got the one, obviously you have a tough game in Philly. Atlanta's lost 4 in a row. You have them at home. You play the Saints on the road it's a wounded team. You played Dallas in the last game.
And frankly, Philly's here too. It is a home game. Let's not overlook that part of it.
Well, it is, and it's not like they were just blown out and embarrassed by them in a tough.
No, they needed a bye week. They were extremely injured. They were on a 3-day turnaround, and they were. a decision away from taking a lead with 8 minutes to go on the road.
Sure, and for sure. So it's not like they can't do it. So I'm actually more curious, really curious to see that game, because it's a second game against a really good defense for Daniels in the offense. How do they adjust to this look? Because they did not have a lot of success in that game. So how does it look for them? And so I think, but yeah, they can win those games. But with this schedule, you need to go at least 2-2, and I think they will.
All right. I'll see you down in New Orleans, hopefully for the first of our 2 trips to New Orleans this year.
2 trips to New Orleans.
Well, because if they're going to make the playoffs, well, then we might as well dream big.
Yeah, that might be 2 trips to New Orleans might be a problem for some of the reporters, but yeah, no,
Maybe.
I like going down there. Good food, man.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
All right, thanks.
Behind the delivery trucks that keep your life stocked, thousands of employees at BP go to work every day. People bringing a new offshore production platform online. People making our refineries capable of more, like making renewable diesel from agricultural waste. People trading and shipping fuels to our customers. And people helping truckers fill up and get maintenance at our convenient locations. They're part of the more than 300,000 jobs BP supports across the country. Learn more at bp.com/investing in America.
Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast here to tell you about Michelob Ultra Courtside. It's getting fans closer to the NBA with a chance to win prizes like courtside seats, a trip to All-Star Weekend, and much more. Check it out at MichelobUltra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Superior Access, Courtside 24-25 sweepstakes, no purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 and up. Begins on October 1st, 2024. Ends July 1st, 2025. Multiple entry periods. Visit MichelobUltra.com/courtside for free entry deadlines, and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
Deck your home with Blinds.com. Blinds.com. DIY or let us install. Free design consultation. Free. Plus free samples and free shipping. Free.
Head to Blinds.com now for up to 40% off select styles, plus a free professional measure.
Blinds.com.
Rules and restrictions may apply.
Welcome back. I can't believe he did it. I can't believe Bill Belichick actually took the North Carolina job. I've spent the last 2 days when you weren't here going on and on and on just about, I think it's a pipe dream to build what he thinks he's going to build down there, that he's going to make this a professional operation. Not everybody's working in the same boat here. Like, everybody in the NFL has a salary cap. There is no such thing in college football. Teams it's always going to come down to money. You can pretend that playing for Bill Belichick is going to be a better, path to the NFL for you. Sure. Yeah. But USC's paying me $3 million. How about you, guy? And when they don't, I don't see it. So mark me down here and put me on freezing cold takes. They're not going to become championship contenders overnight. No way. And at his age, will they become even consistent enough to be in this playoff, even in the expanded version of it? I'll believe it when I see it, actually. I don't, if he had done this at, I don't know, one of those SEC schools like Auburn, who's like, you know what, we need to bring something in here, but they've got the coffers to do it and the history of doing it, I would somewhat more buy into this. I don't think he's a great coach. I don't think this is going to work the way they envision this at all.
I am not as negative on this as you are. I will say this, though. We have figured out what the line is. What team will let him come in and have full autonomy? And it happens to be UNC football. That's where it lands, because this seemed to be the whole entire thing over the last couple of days. It wasn't just hiring Bill Belichick. It was hiring him and his son, because that's a caveat of this whole thing too, is he wants his son to basically be named head coach in waiting, which we've never seen in football ever. We've seen it in college.
Basically telling the athletic department there, you have no say in anything here. We have all to say. Correct.
And so when things started heating up here, I said, oh, wow. I went the opposite way of you. I didn't think it was a farce. I thought this is the NFL saying we don't want you to do it the way that you want it to be done here. That's pretty much where I
I wouldn't say I think it's a farce. I just think I think the idea that they're going to attract a ton of players comes down to money. It doesn't come down to whether you like Bill Belichick or not. Like, Nick Saban quit the sport. What about that gave Bill Belichick the idea that now's the time to get into it? Like, think about that for a moment. Like, Nick Saban, greatest coach in college football history, said, you know what, guys? I can't take this. They've got way more money and way more history in this sport than North Carolina does. And Bill Belichick is convincing himself that it's going to be different for him when it wasn't for Saban in a better situation. This is why I don't think this is going to work out the way that he envisions. Will he be good at it? Sure. Will the teams be competitive? Yeah, absolutely. Will they be a national championship contender every year? I'll believe it when I see it. Like, not unless they got $100 million to start paying the players. Like, that's not going to happen. And the other thing that I think is risky about doing this, and I know all the money's in football, they have, period, a top 5 all-time traditional brand basketball team. And you know what they just did? They basically said that is second fiddle to this here. Second fiddle to this here. If I were them, that is offensive. Like, we are North Carolina, and you know this. And they basically said, we're going to put all of our resources into this side of it, even though we've never been consistent at it. I think this is a bad mix that's going to end up not the way they intend. It's not going to ruin his legacy or anything, but I don't think this is going to work out well for anybody down there.
The other part of this, too, is who hires a coach gives him this much control, and we know he's probably going to be done in 3 to 5 years. Like, no matter how good or bad it goes. Like, that's what I'm getting at. Like, what if he's really good, actually? But after year 3, he goes, I'm 75. I'm good. Like, nobody's going to fault him for that.
I'm going to just go hang out with my 24-year-old girlfriend. Bye.
Right. So, like, that's the other part of this where I'm kind of baffled they're going to give him this level of control, knowing that he's, like, not just at the end of his career, but, like, the twilight of his career. He's not going to last more than 3 to 4 to 5 years.
If this was Sean McVay, who said, you know what, at his age wants to do it, I would buy into this guy might do this for 15 years if it goes well. And he's got the same credibility that Belichick does have been in the NFL, going to run a pro offense. Guys love to play for him. He'll make them professional ready. Like, I would buy that. At this guy at his age, I can't believe they did this. It felt very desperate to do this. I thought it was offensive to their basketball program, honestly. It's not like there's a history of winning there in football, which is also odd that he wants to do it. And the last part of it that really gets me is he's preemptively basically telling you, I know the NFL still doesn't want me back, which that's the part I really can't believe. Now, he is turning in some 400-page Bible of how he wants things done. So I could see anybody who works for any organization going, if we interview this guy, he's going to fire all of us. Therefore, I'm not even going to recommend we even interview this guy. That said, I can't believe there is not some owner. He is within earshot of the all-time wins record. And there's not one owner in the NFL going, I think we should talk to him. Not one. Like, what do you mean? Like, how is he not a viable candidate to get back into the NFL?
I'm 100% with you. And I know that the NFL is all self-preservation. So maybe these conversations are being shut down fast. But there are like 2 franchises I would circle right away. The Raiders, just because that's a Davis move, right? To hand them that. And then you got, you have Brady as a part owner. So all of a sudden you'd be bringing that over. And 2, the one guy that I actually thought would have been interested in doing this, and we heard a little bit of talk of it last year, is Shad Khan down in Jacksonville. Like, how do you not give that guy a chance to just take over the program? Because, like, you're the one that said, oh, this is the best Jags team ever that we're about to roll out there. And they sucked. Like, they weren't just bad. They sucked. And you have a franchise quarterback there. Those are the 2 that I circle right away and go, how are you not at least giving this guy a chance to revamp your program?
I got one more, and I actually think it would have been perfect. Cincinnati has an all-world quarterback. They had a really bad year. That place isn't like traditionally, it's run by the owner, right? It's not a robust like front office. I can't believe they didn't go, we got Joe Burrow in his prime. Bring this guy in here. Let him run the whole ship, and let's see how it goes with Burrow. That's the place I would have really thought about with him. But whatever. They did what they did, and we'll see what goes in North Carolina. All right, real quick. I'm sure you saw Tom Wilson's face while you were on vacation, that was something. Then he scored 2 goals after he took that shot to his face. So good for him. Once again, reinforcing why he's one of my favorite Capitals of all time. I love Tom Wilson, plays through that. And tonight you take the C bus. So Caps are back. What do you think off their break?
They should beat Columbus. I will say this, though. Columbus has been a sneaky okay team this year. People thought they were going to be really bad, especially after the tragedy with Gaudreau, right? Like that was maybe the worst hockey tragedy that we've seen in the modern era.
They do, just for reference point here, have like the 3rd fewest points in the East. But people pretty good is, let's take that relatively here.
No, I get that. But like people really thought they were going to be bad, like disastrously bad. And they've actually turned into a little bit scrappier than I think people think. I think the Caps win this, but Caps have been off for 4 days. You know how this works. 4 days, inferior opponent. You're going to be on the road. I'm going to say it takes a period and a half to get the Caps going here. I think they win, but I bet you it's a little close. It's a little close in the first half.
All right, take that. All right, talk to y'all tomorrow. Bram Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital.